I'm telling you. So we need to get to that point where we normalize a culture of affirmation.
Be your own cheerleader.
Be your own cheerleader. And this is what I'm asking you. Be your own cheerleader. Be some depressing statuses on WhatsApp. Put uplifting statuses on WhatsApp. Be some words which drain energy from you and out of you, and begin to put energy in you. Be your own energy drink. Be your own fire, whatever. Don't be a fire extinguisher in your own life through your words.
Yeah.
So on a wonder we extinguish our own power, our own fire, because of what we tell ourselves.
I'm like, we've normalized telling ourselves negative things.
Yeah.
And the moment that you tell the person to start confessing positive things, to them it's like, why?
You know what?
The same way that you've normalized saying negative things about your life. Because
true.
our mind is a battleground. And if you win that battle in the mind, you have really conquered life. Slowly, but then it will happen.
So true. And I think right now, we live in an environment that's so negative.
Mm-hmm.
And when you decide to be positive, you're usually faced with not the kindest of words. Experience my results a positive talk, positive self-talk. So
Advocate Arthur Marara. He is an award-winning attorney, author, business and transformational speaker. Hey, good morning.
Hey, Vicky, you're looking sharp, eh?
As you do, you're looking good.
Thank you.
Dapper.
Yes.
What is it about?
Group fire.
And is it?
Group fire.
Okay, so let's get into it. Self-talk, internal conversations.
Very, very important.
Yeah.
I think we need to stress this because almost every day we talk. The question is, what are you telling yourself? That's what I want to tell people today. Mm-hmm. What are you telling yourself? And I want us to really engage seriously with ourselves, because it's very important, because the words that we tell ourselves every day, they're very important. Meaning, if you want to change your life, you need to be very careful. You need to be very mindful about what you're telling yourself. Because inini ndakaenda kuchikoro changu emedza ndirimarara munhu ndaungoudza
Iwe Marara.
Marara uchikandirwa ka-exercise book dzina kubalanza. And I think that the worst mistake I ever made, maybe it was because of age, I literally gave up. That's why I did a yoga mates. Because I lost interest completely. Which is why we need to begin to help each other realize that words are going to be spoken against you, things are going to be said about you, but the most important thing, Vikende, is what you tell yourself. What are you telling yourself? A number of times we don't actually begin to appreciate that every word that comes out of your mouth is very important. I was able to change my life the moment I started changing my self-talk. There's a story that I usually tell people, and I think it also basically illustrates this principle. It's told about a small boy. He comes from school with a small piece of paper. He says, Mama, my teacher, he says, I must give you this paper. Not anyone else, just you. So the mother opens that very same piece of paper, and as she was reading, she started crying. She cried to an extent that the little boy actually noticed that there's something wrong, something off. What's happening with the mother? He says, Mama, why are you crying? The mother says, it's what's written on this paper. And he says, can you read it for me? The mother says, no, your teacher says, your son is a genius. This school does not have enough good teachers to teach him. Please teach him at home. So the mother pulls the child from school, homeschools the child, and the child grows to become a very respected inventor in the form of Thomas Edison. So Thomas Edison is the guy who created the light that's above there. He's the guy who created many other inventions that we use today, including the basis for the modern camera that we use for videos. And he's credited with over 1,000 patents. So if you're credited with 1,000 patents, this is what it means. It means you are recognized as an inventor. So you're talking about an inventor of 1,000 products. Later on, the mother dies. And as he was going through his mother's stuff, there's something that happens. He noticed the very same piece of paper, but when he opened, he was shocked because the message was different. The message was, your son is mentally ill. please remove him from school. But when the mother was given the paper, she did not read the part Yagan's mentally ill. She decided to read something different. And what does she read? She says, your son is a genius. When the teacher was saying a mentally ill child, the mother saw a genius.
And she took him in to
And she took
homeschool him
as a genius, treated him as a genius, raised him as a genius, which is why when everyone is saying what they're saying about you, what are you telling yourself? So Thomas Edison wants to remark later on, writing in his journal, he says Thomas Edison was an adult child that by a hero of a mother became a genius of the century because of someone who refused to give up, because of someone who realized the destructive nature of words.
She could not let them define her son.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She could not let people define her son. What does she decide to do? She decides to define him, which is why the role of any parent is to believe in your child. When the world is saying anything, everything about your child that's negative, you need to step in and begin to correct the narrative. You need to step in and begin to disrupt the narrative. We come from backgrounds where things were said about us. And guess what? That thing was repeated over and over and over again with that narrative. And that narrative is repeated. But this is what I want to challenge people. I don't care the narrative. But what I want to encourage you is to disrupt the narrative. And how do you disrupt the narrative, Ikendi? You disrupt the narrative by introducing a better narrative. In other words, this is what I'm going to start telling myself. This is what I'm going to start reminding myself. When I wake up every day, this is what I'm going to tell myself. Before I sleep, this is what I'm going to tell myself. During the day, this is what I'm going to tell myself. And I need to help you. You need to be very careful about the words that you tell yourself and what you speak about yourself, especially when you're at your lowest. You see, a number of people, when we are at our lowest, that's when we choose the most unpleasant words to describe ourselves. And that's why I want to encourage you. Even if you're going through your valley moments, learn to speak yourself up.
Because in your mouth, there is the power of life.
And death.
So you have to pick life.
Speak life.
Speak
to
life.
You. So,
yeah.
Learn to speak life to yourself.
I know sometimes it's so difficult.
Yeah.
Left, right, and center,
True.
rock bottom.
True.
And they're like, how do I encourage myself? What do I even say? Am I being a fool to say, hey, I'm blessed, I will make it?
Can I tell you one thing?
Yeah.
The moment you realize that sometimes the best words of encouragement will come from you, you learn to encourage yourself.
Yeah.
So a number of times we wait to hear words of encouragement. Sometimes they'll never come. That's why you need to learn to charge yourself. Self-charging. Self-starting. So when you wake up every day, the best ways to determine the direction of your day is not going to be coming from a podcast. It's not going to be coming from a WhatsApp broadcast list. No. They have to come from you. In other words, I'm going to be winning today. I'm going to make things happen, including when you don't even know how it's going to happen. It's very, very important.
And do it long enough until you believe it.
True.
The same way that the negative words were spoken long enough that you begin to believe them. This is the gospel truth. So it may start off as being silly and stupid.
Yep.
And that you're just hitting a wall.
You're right.
You're building.
So true. You see, that's why we need to be very careful about the word runs routine. What you repeatedly do. That's why people who are successful in a routine, there's a certain way that they do things. How they start their day. How they maintain time through their day. That actually works. So, normalize a culture where you are so kind to yourself. You see, a number of people are kind to other people and very cruel to ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, we look for fine ways to describe others, but when you come to yourself, we're not talking about words of some sort. So, I want us to normalize a culture of self-talk. And once you normalize the culture of self-talk, you know, even to ignore the voices out there. Because we live in a world that's so unkind. We live in a world where people have got their own issues. Go on social media. You realize even we got to post a funeral to Ningashaika. Couldn't have story even kind words. So almost the matter because couldn't even one my issues. And this is how toxic the setup is. Meaning you need to be very, very careful about the words that come out of your mind. And most importantly, you need to normalize the culture and make it a habit. that whenever that you open your mouth speaking to you, speak words that build you. Because if you don't speak words that build you, ultimately, what you're telling yourself is going to destroy you. So the story is told about a group of Matashka. They were going through the forest, and two of them, they fell into a pit. So they started jumping, trying to get out. So other boys are up so one of them listened, gave up, and it died. One to continue jumping, continue trying. Eventually it was able to get out. So they all wondered why is it this dude was able to get out when everyone was saying you can't get out. They actually realized that this particular frog was deaf. So when everyone was saying the particular frog thought that these guys were actually cheering up, and instead of giving up, he actually used that as motivation, which is why I want us to learn to barricade ourselves from external talk. How do we do that? It's because we strengthen our internal talk. What do you tell yourself? And this is the question that I'm asking you. What are you telling yourself now? What are you telling yourself every day? You see, a number of people, they wake up with a defeated attitude. A number of people, they wake up, what a loser. They've given up on life, given up on relationships, given up on family, given up on everything. Why? Because we remind ourselves repeatedly, it's not going to happen. So, my encouragement to everyone today is, what are you telling yourself? And I want you to go back to ancient Israel. There's a story about this lady with an issue of blood. And we know the story, that she'd gone to many places to get help, but she couldn't. She lost everything that she had in trying to gain recovery and so forth. And the writer of the gospel says she told herself that if only I can touch the garment. She didn't consult, but she convinced in herself that if I can only touch that garment, if I can only touch that garment, I'm going to be made well. And I want you to notice one thing. A number of life-changing conversations actually have to happen between you and you.
Where's the lie? Yeah.
It's you and you. And say, I'm going to do this. You see, if she had confessed with someone and say, this is what I'm planning to do, well done, I think in fact, and a number of times we end up losing on some life's opportunities simply because we've opened up certain conversations to the wrong people. And that's why I believe it's very important for us to be very careful. Who are we speaking to? And most importantly, what are we saying to ourselves? So, what changed my life? No, I always share this. Didn't see in English. I couldn't even speak proper English. And that was Tango University, baby. Do you know what changed my life? Was telling myself I can do this. That's why every day when I wake up, I tell myself I can do this. When I get an assignment that's difficult, I can do this. I can do this. And you know, there was one particular assignment which was very, very intimidating. He says, Shuba, I can do this. Shuba, I can do this. And you know what?
Did it.
And I did it. I'm telling you. So we need to get to that point where we normalize a culture of affirmation.
Be your own cheerleader.
Be your own cheerleader. And this is what I'm asking you. Be your own cheerleader. Be some depressing statuses on WhatsApp. Put uplifting statuses on WhatsApp. Be some words which drain energy from you and out of you, and begin to put energy in you. Be your own energy drink. Be your own fire, whatever. Don't be a fire extinguisher in your own life through your words.
Yeah.
So on a wonder we extinguish our own power, our own fire, because of what we tell ourselves.
And like we've normalized telling ourselves negative things.
Yeah.
And the moment that you tell the person to start confessing positive things, to them it's like, why?
You know what?
The same way that you've normalized saying negative things about your life, because our mind is a battleground, and if you win that battle in the mind, you have really conquered life slowly.
So
but
true.
Then it will happen.
So true. And I think right now we live in an environment that's so negative. And when you decide to be positive, you're usually faced with not the kindest of words. Experience results a positive talk, positive self-talk. So I want you to normalize that culture every day of speaking better things about you. Because this is your life. Remember the book that I wrote, no one is coming. And the moment you understand that, I want you to take the pilot seat in driving this aircraft called your life. And that's the function of words. There's one psychologist called William James. As a youngster, had several issues. At one point in time, he tried to even commit suicide unsuccessfully. And he eventually comes to the decision that no, do not teach for a year. If I decide to change how I think, how I do my things, try to affirm myself, don't what can happen. Can as well they know project to be. And for 1 year, he literally changed how he'd been living his life. Started reading stuff that started building him, started getting mentorship from various people, and within 1 year, noticeable results started seeing in his life. And this is what he actually said later on in his life. He says the greatest discovery of any generation is that a human being can alter his life by merely altering his attitude. The moment you shift your attitude, and attitude is connected to mindset, how you think, and how you think is also connected to how you speak. That's why what you tell yourself every day repeatedly ends up shaping how you think. That's why it's very, very important to be very selective, because once your mind settles on something, that becomes a mindset. And what we want people is to sit down, normalize a culture where you affirm yourself every day. Because guess what? One of my issues are they're busy fighting their personal battles. And if you're waiting for people to come, you might be disappointed. And I'm asking you, don't fight yourself. Don't self-sabotage you. And the moment you understand that you can be responsible for your success, and you are responsible for your success, the moment you stop sabotaging yourself, it will change your life. So how do we sabotage ourselves? Instead of speaking what we want to see, we speak what we don't want to see. That's why many people know more what they don't want than what they actually do want. So, question and everyone who's listening to us today is, what are you telling yourself? So, one exercise that I want everyone to do, learn to create a list of my affirmations. My affirmations these are words that you tell yourself. That is to speak to the future that you want. Write a list of 30 affirmations every day when you wake up. I want you to go through those words. And I want you to repeat those words until they become normal. And I want you to get to a point until you believe it. And guess what? Your belief systems, they determine ultimately the direction of your life. And once you begin to correct your belief system, you begin to correct your life. Because your mindset is very important. Remember what Solomon says in Proverbs 23. Be careful how you think.
Yeah.
Your life is shaped by your thoughts. Be careful how you think. Your life is shaped by your thoughts. And that's why he even says death and life is in the power of the tongue.
Yeah.
So the question is, are you choosing life? Are you choosing death? I choose life.
And do not be conformed to the patterns of this world.
No, don't.
But be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Of your mind, how you think.
How you think.
And renew is a very interesting word. It simply means return to new. The word renew, return to new, return new, meaning the original state your mind was created in was unlimited. That's why a baby is better than an adult. Why? Because babies are unlimited. But in adults, because we think, we have been programmed on our marriage, let's renew our minds.
But then you can still, pick yourself up and
pick yourself up.
Pick yourself, dust yourself up.
True.
And do it.
Good.
I can do it.
You can.
Yes.
So what are you telling yourself? That's the question I'm leaving you for this week.
Wonderful. Advocate Arthur Marara. Thank you so much for